Welcome to a follow-up video on MCP Server for Dataverse and Claude configuration. I would like to show you how you can set up Claude Desktop to use MCP Server to connect to the Dataverse. Generally speaking, everything is well documented by Microsoft, and we will go through this documentation and create the configuration. First of all, let's check the admin center. I have created a configuration for my test environment, which is a developer environment, and there's one thing that you have to check before starting, that MCP servers can be used and clients are allowed to connect to the environment. So from this environment we go to settings and to product and features, and in this feature settings you have to check for the MCP, and here it is, the MCP for Dataverse, and allow MCP clients to interact with Dataverse. This has to be checked. Okay, so let's check the documentation. You can find it here, and there is a point about connect to Dataverse MCP with non-Microsoft client, and we are using Claude Desktop, which is already installed in my Windows environment to connect. So it says configure and manage Dataverse MCP for environment. That's what we have done, and in the next step we have to install the MCP server and we have to create the connection so Claude can connect to this environment. To do this, we go to Power Automate. So I'm typing flow-microsoft.com, or you can type Power Automate, whatever you like. Yeah, So, and I'm switching to my test environment. And from the test environment, we have to create a connection. This is so useless. And here it is. So from the connection, I have already created the connection, but I will create a new one. And we go for Dataverse, and we create a Dataverse connection, and I'm using OAuth here to create a new connection. And I'm signing in with my user. This will be the user that will use the connection and connect to Dataverse. So let's check this connection, and what we have to do, we have to provide later on a connection string for the Claude MCP configuration, which is based on this information here. But there's only one trick that you have to know. It had to be in a special format. It has to be in the format that Microsoft provides in the documentation. So this one, so I'm copy this template if you like, and copy the URL from here, and we will later on change this. So now we have a Dataverse environment and we have a connection. So the next is to install the necessary binaries, and the first is we need the SDK. So we go to the command line and do exactly what it says. Winget install .NET SDK. And we want to install and of course agree to the license. And it is installing the .NET SDK 8.0 for 17 in my case now. Done. And if you don't have .NET SDK already installed, you have to close and start the console again, because the next step would be to call a tool called .NET. And if you try to call this here and you did not have installed the .NET SDK, it does not recognize this in this session, so we are closing the command. And now it knows what .NET means. And step 2 is to install the MCP server locally. Again, just copy the command from the documentation and let's install. And it says MCP server successfully installed. Okay. So we need additional information for the configuration. We need the tenant ID. The tenant ID can be found, as it says here, if you go to Power Apps, to the settings and to the session details. So let's open Power Apps. It's not necessary to switch the environment here, because these all environments are in one tenant, but just for fun I'm switching here. And go to the gear icon, to the session details, and in the session details you see the tenant, and we're going to copy this tenant ID also somewhere, in my case in Notepad. And return to the documentation. So we have done this, and now we have to configure Claude. Like I said, I have already Claude Desktop installed, and we have to go to the configuration file. Before we do this, what I said previously is about the URL to the Dataverse connection. So that's why I have to copy these two informations here. So this here is from Microsoft, from the documentation, and I'm eliminating this preprod here. It's not necessary. Make powerautomate.com/environment, and I copy my environment GUID and paste it over here. Then it has to be called connections, API name, shared common data, and connection name, and a GUID. And this GUID is the same that we use from here. And that's it, because if you use this connection string right now in January 2026, it is not working. So we have to use this format here. Now let's go to Claude Desktop, which is already installed here. And from Claude Desktop, we go to the settings and to the developer. And here we have the tab for configure MCP server. And if you click on edit the configuration, we find here a JSON file, and we have to edit this JSON file. So I say open with Notepad in my case. And it is empty because I have no MCP server configured. And again, we're going to paste this here from the Microsoft documentation. And the only thing that we have to do is to fill in some data. So a friendly name, MCP TV for Dataverse. This has to be what it is, and we have the arguments, and we need here the connection URL. So from my documentation. I'm using this connection string. It looks like this. MCP server name is okay, and we have to provide the tenant ID. That's what I have copied from the session details. This is the tenant ID, and that's it. Now we can save this configuration, close the configuration, close Claude Desktop, and quit Claude completely. And now let's restart Claude, and hopefully we don't get an error message. So if you have, okay, it is calling for authentication. That means the connection is generally working, and I'm going to log into the environment. And I hope this is correct password. It is, and it's asking, of course, for MFA. And we will allow the application to access the environment. And here we go. Looks good. And now from the plus sign, we should see an MCP Dataverse. Here it is, MCP DB, that's what we have configured right now. And now I can ask Claude to interact with the Dataverse. For example, connect to Dataverse and print all entries in the accounts table. So now it will check the MCP that it has. We'll try to connect to a table, ask us if we will allow to connect, and I say okay, always allow to connect to the table. Then it's checking the table structure. We'll find that there is an account table, create a query hopefully, and prompt us the result of the query. In the first step, this may take a while. You see it says list tables, so it's checking which tables it has. And it found an account table. Don't get confused by these error messages here. And you can see for Coffee, Litware, AdventureWorks, Fabricam, this is data that comes from the Dataverse. I hope this was interesting and helpful for you, and if you like it, leave a thumbs up and a comment. Thanks for watching, and bye bye.